Maybe we can cap that here. Okay, we're gonna do. I don't know what I did. Hey guys. Hey guys. Welcome to Navigating Neva. We're on episode 3, Lifeguard Environments, with your host, Neva Nicole, and co host, Wesley King.
Hey, glad to be back.
So, this week we're talking about lifeguard environments. Um, if you were here last week, you know we're going on our lifeguarding theme. You can always go back and listen to what we've been talking about. But this week we're talking about where you can work and how you get a job there.
That's right. Exciting information, exciting environments, and exciting career pathways all built into one episode.
Exactly. So, for fun facts, did you know that there's over 150,000 lifeguards working in the US every year, every summer?
Oh, first of all, I didn't know that, and I think that number probably grows and grows as the industry grows. And we always say there's a lifeguard shortage, but this number kind of leans the other way towards that. But for a job that requires focus and training and passion and teamwork, that's a pretty significant number. And if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says that lifeguards, beach patrols, ski patrols, et cetera, average annual wage is about 24 grand a year. And again, I have to think that's going up with the minimum wage is spiking in each state too,
Let's hope so.
right? And it's not an easy job, but it's a great job to get started in.
It is. And if you are looking for perks, when you work at our local YMCA, you often get discounts like a member benefit and half off programs. So there's some opportunities with these part time and even full time lifeguard positions out there.
Oh, you're not kidding. Not just those half off memberships, but it gets you in the building, it gets you engaged with whatever organization you're with. So anybody that is also looking to get more active and have a more well-rounded lifestyle, you become a lifeguard in these locations, and you're not just swimming laps there. You're working out there. You're checking at the membership desk, and maybe your family members are participating. Your roommates joining. So it really isn't just that I'm going to go work a shift and leave type thing either.
Yeah, I got my job at the Y because I got off work and got to work out. It gave my parents, I was still a kid, I was a teenager, but they got a discount on our membership because I was an employee.
This is going to date me, but back in my day, this is the early 90s now. I got a job in an indoor high school pool because they had a springboard and I could do 1.5 dives and I could do 3 meters. And the 10 meter was open to staff that was trained for deep water rescues.
That's awesome.
So, right. And that's why I got a job there because back in the middle of the 1990s, that's a real decade, people. You could work at places that had diving wells and platform dives and not worry about all the things that we worry about today.
Well, that still
So,
happens here. We pick our jobs based on what pool we want to work at for the same perks.
bingo.
And my son works, he gets free lunch or a free meal with his
You get it.
yes,
Yes. See,
yes.
we forget all these things. And again, knowing that many lifeguards aren't just 16 and 18-year-olds. There's school teachers, they're off-duty firemen, they're people that have seasonal jobs, they're retired. It's important to know what kind of perks and benefits come with your job and what memberships come with it.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're going to dive right into our. Oh, before we could dive into our environments, we're going to recap what we've been talking about. So, what is this slide, Wes?
This is how we get to where we want to be. This is our guard pathways. Once we join the aquatic industry world, if you will, where does it take us, right? What path does that turtle in Finding Nemo flow with?
That's right, right. And I do the sea turtles with the kids all the time. The Finding Nemo turtle.
Yeah, right. It's a small world.
Yeah, to recap, or if you haven't listened to our prior episodes, meeting the physical requirements as long as the age, that would be step one. and then you're going to find your courses. That's discussed in previous episodes as well. Get your certification, and once you get that certification, you can apply for the job you want.
That it's so the job you want.
The job you
You
want.
don't have to be on the beg, borrow, and steal side of things anymore. You have something that gives you a distinguished pathway to a career.
Yeah.
I started as a lifeguard, became a lifeguard instructor. My body defeated me, and so I got out of the pool. My wife teaches swim lessons. She started as a swimmer, as a lifeguard. Nicole, I believe that, and your children, and it starts with the lifeguarding.
It all
Anybody
does.
that has seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life, that's my all-time favorite movie. Jimmy Stewart, the actor, George Bailey, he was a lifeguard in real life before he was in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. So you could do anything if
That's
you're a
funny.
lifeguard,
Yeah, a lot
right?
of CEOs started as lifeguards. I'd always wanted to do an episode on here about who started as a guard.
Check
'Cause
that
a
box
lot of
for
them did. A
sure.
lot of them did.
And to that point, it started in probably one of these four pictures.
Right.
And
And
I
Biden was a lifeguard, wasn't he? Joe
he
Biden.
sh I believe it. I mean, in Hawaii, right? Why not? Go for it. Um, but I think that's an important piece is once you lifeguard, where you're going to go.
Exactly.
And what about each environment is positive and negative, if you want to use those words, from the sound of an echoing, small, non big roofed with tin stairs of a pool that just echoes everything you say to an outdoor beach where you can't see the end of the ocean. Those are two very different environments to my eyes, to my ears, to my skin, etc.,
All
and to the
right.
job I'm going to have.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I've got like the Southeast Georgia, well, Southeast region, I guess, covered, and you've got mid Northwest.
Midwest, yeah, I was Central Illinois, now live in Chicago, but travel all around and going all the way to some clients and contacts all the way out west to California. You know, that's a different lifeguard environment, even indoors.
Yeah.
The indoor lifeguard environment can be different all across the country and all across the world. And so understanding the work you're going to have to put in and the training you're going to have to do and the rescues you might have are going to be really relevant, I think.
So let's talk about where we can, if we want to work, where we can go. So the first photo we have, this is just a public pool, and in my area, we have the city, we have the county, we have the YMCA, and if you want to work for any of those, people usually get confused with the city and county, but you got to go through the city and county's website because you are then in fact a city or county employee, even if you're a minor.
Park district, for example, right? Each state has their own park district. Each county and town or municipality has their own park district, or most of them do. And then once you join that workforce, you become part of that team. So you want to know, are you a Jewish community center? Are you a YMCA? Are you a private club? You're indoor. You're in my town. You take memberships. You have a treadmill. You have childcare. You have yoga. You have massage. You have personal trainers. If you didn't have a name on the front of your building, what's inside of it? Who pays your bills? Who pays my check? Is it governed by what organization? So just establishing the nuances within that building. And like you said, are you a city? Are you a county or a municipality of an indoor property or outdoor for that matter? Are you year round, et cetera? But park district municipality is a great way to start for sure.
Yeah. And then here we have water parks, a few of them. And for those employments, you go to the water park, and a lot of them will do their own training. So you don't have to get trained first. You apply and they run you through their own courses. So you can apply without being certified. They will handle that. How about where you are?
Well, that's a great point. Again, regionally, right? Our water parks are open in the season in the Midwest, but year round in the South. But to the Midwest, you're going to get trained probably well before that pool and that water park are operating at its fullest capacity. So you've got to use other modalities of training. Whereas if you go to Texas or California, you're training in real time while the doors are open, the bucket's dumping, and you're on day one, and there's a guard right next to you on year three, and it's real time. So knowing what that environment's like, knowing what that training is like, knowing what that preparation is like, making sure your organization has that preparation so you don't get caught, with like the deer in headlights, or as they say, twice as green and what's the pool table phrase? Twice as green and twice as square,
Hmm.
wet behind the ears, right? So you got to know what's happening in that water park.
We have private clubs where I am. Do you have private clubs where you are?
We do golf, yacht, golf clubs, yacht clubs, country clubs, boat clubs, especially if you're in New Jersey. I have a lot of clients out in New Jersey, and each one is their own particular nuance, let's say.
Yes. Ours are a hot commodity. Everybody wants to work there. Once they get their
Mhm.
crew staffed, you got to wait for somebody to move out or you don't get a spot in. So,
That's a great way. And there you might not have your, yeah, there's an accent. You might not have your exact lifeguard uniform on. You might have a polo shirt on with your swim trunks on that look like khaki shorts.
they do.
You might have shoes on that look like dress shoes but are really safe to swim in so that you fit in, quote unquote, with whatever appearance this specific club may want you to have.
Yeah,
Hotels are sometimes like that too. So great reference. Again, a different expectation of service
exactly.
there. Yeah, great
Um,
point.
our last photo here is the beach. So East Coast and West Coast, we have the oceans, but we also have the Great Lakes. And then inside we've got lakes or waterfronts. But you're going to use the special certificates we talked about previously, like Coast Guard or USLA when you're at these open oceans.
Absolutely. And is it brown water or blue water? Can I see or can't I see? Are there waves or no waves? And again, what is your training like? What is your comfort level with your feet being in the sand? What is your comfort level with walking on hot sand? And do you enjoy that or don't you? So just understanding what kind of water and what kind of environment from sight, sound, feel, touch, smell are you going to be facing with just your lifeguarding certification?
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to dive into our next slide, and it's telling us the difference between, well, your two favorite places. Are you going to be a pool lifeguard or a beach lifeguard? So, like Wes was saying, in a pool, we've got a controlled environment, whereas the beach, there's a lot of different variables there.
Right. The I do a program called Entry and Exit, right? When we do a mapping of a property or a deck walk, we do a thing called a deck walk. There's only one place, a door, you can get in and out of a pool. A beach doesn't have those type of limitations, does it? And so understanding your zone, your scope, your net, your where you've got your lane lines, if you have one, or if you've got your radios or your boat guards, your flags. I mean, I can go on and on, but you're trained for that. They don't just put you, and on the opposite end, you could be on a river, you could be on a lake, and the water could be flat and still, and you could see your toes. Doesn't mean water isn't dangerous. Doesn't mean there aren't wakes or underground currents, underwater currents. Anyway, and go back to the pool, Nicole. You've got several pool properties there. There's a lot of controlled environments, but still things that can come up and get you if you're not paying attention.
For sure. I just realized I spelled rescues wrong. So if anybody's going to get the show notes, rescue will be correct in those. But it does say rescue technique. So
That should be our pop quiz for later to make sure people are listening.
be like, did you know what I did wrong?
Oh,
What I do want to point out is that rescue equipment is different. So a beach
oh
diver
yeah.
and lifeguard usually aren't an interchangeable thing. Like go cover the beach today, go cover the pool today, unless you have dual training because the equipment's different, right? Wes, you guys have different equipment?
Absolutely. Now, would you say though, if I put you in an indoor YMCA or an indoor JCC or an indoor Parks and Rec, and I said go guard this indoor pool versus that indoor pool, would you feel much more comfortable?
Absolutely. I'd feel great. It's just a pool. I can see the bottom.
And I think that's something people should take away is rely on your knowledge. When there are consistencies, use that to your advantage when you're interviewing, when you're hiring, when you're recruiting. Find out what comfort level you have in similar environments. And to your point, if I've guarded waves before and I've guarded oceans before and I can understand currents and I can understand the flag system, I'm going to be much more comfortable. You put me in an indoor pool and I start hearing echoes and air horns and children crying and membership people complaining or Zumba classes in another room. I don't hear that on a beach.
You
I
don't?
don't have those problems on the beach. So my ears all of a sudden are hearing. So it's a very different sense. I don't smell chlorine on the beach.
You
All
don't?
right.
No.
So very different triggers and responses and expectations too. And you're spot on and knowing what's similar and what's different.
Yeah, our local beach, they used to be called guards, and the person in charge now changed it to beach patrol because they're more
Well
like a
done.
cop. They're patrolling the waters. I mean, they're doing rescues all the time and documenting them, but they it says beach patrol on the back of their shirts.
And perfect segue. You mentioned the names and changes of positions. I think if we go to the next slide or we get to the private club, what are many organizations doing now? Or have you seen the shift of safety staff or pool attendant or Have you heard of that term become more popular these days?
I have. I've heard of pool attendants, and
Yeah,
they call it something else here, but yes, I've heard of that.
yeah. They're not lifeguards, but they are presenting themselves as more of a service oriented individual. And I've seen a lot of clubs, some very high end hotels that I work with, and management companies I work with. You're a lifeguard, but you're not sitting in the chair. You are not seen as a lifeguard, so that you are not accountable and not judged or juried for not scanning.
Right,
However, you
right.
are on the pool deck, you
Yep.
are catering, you are have a radio, and you're expected to prevent and respond in an emergency. But the no lifeguard sign holds true.
Yes,
But
and
that,
you call it
right?
a deck supervisor or deck cleaner.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
fancy term, but yes, the clubs are disguising it. So if you're trying to apply for a job there, you kind of want to know the lingo of the club so you know exactly what you're applying for.
Absolutely. On the opposite end, when the clubs are very up front and center and have the visors and the guards, and you've got your water bottle, you have this thing called now a club membership or a club member who
Right,
comes there in the summer. And whether it's a very fancy high end club or a club that maybe is in the middle of the road, people that pay membership to clubs feel generally, very stereotypically, don't yell at me, that they have a right to treat you and anybody else differently. And not saying that's right or wrong, just saying that's a very stereotypical, general, don't send me letters thought. The point being is when you go from a public club, a YMCA, or a public property, and then take a summer job at a country club, somebody should sit down and have an 8 hour course with you on how to manage what you're going to see in that country club and what you're going to hear potentially. So it's
right.
a different environment mentally sometimes too.
Yep. And the responsibilities are different. You might be responsible for
Check.
laying towels out on the lawn chairs, whereas at your city pool, that's not a thing. You don't even have towels.
Great. That towel statement, I think, Nicole, you're not only responsible, you're seen as
Mhm,
being responsible for cleaning, professionalism,
mhm.
uh, talking about all the things that are happening in the club, where maybe in another location you just have to guard and know what's happening in the pool. You don't have to sell memberships, you don't have to sell personal training pack, but in a country club, you might be expected to know a little more and be a little higher end of service. Great point. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to our next slide. It's a public pool, but public is going to cover the city, the county, and also the YMCA. You usually need a YMCA membership, but you're still going to get those things like a larger crowd, a big diverse of people, and it's a higher risk.
You hit the nail on the head. You know, diverse populations, I think, are something we don't talk about enough in how we lifeguard and understanding our zone and how a diverse population can affect us while we're in chair and out of chair, from the babies to the olds to the youngs to the non-swimmers to the everybody. And when your pool is full of a diverse melting pot of people, it brings up more than one component of lifeguarding, from emergency response to the nuances of baby CPR to all kinds of different things. And so knowing what you're going to see in a public pool and when you're going to see it. When do all the people bring their families after school? When do the older people come in and do water aerobics in the morning? Don't I know all age of people to do it, but point being. And so understanding those trends in a public pool is going to be very important, and how to manage the diverse population.
Exactly. So next one is the university pools. Do you guys have big pools at your university?
All over. And I think this would be whatever the definition of an opposite of diverse population is, the university would call, right? They're going to be 18 to 22-year-olds.
Right.
They're going to be all different races of, race, creed, and color, but mostly 18 to 24-year-olds, mostly active, engaged if they're using the pool,
Yeah.
mostly on campus or close to campus, so they're not driving half hours. Blah, blah, generalization, 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 right?
So yeah, so to your point, that's more focused towards the faculty or the students, and then a lot of the students are at the pool because they're training. It's sports, they're doing water
Right.
polo, they're doing swim teams. So you're guarding people that are more related to those
But
sports that you don't see at the other pools.
swim team people don't ever drown though, right? And college athletes don't ever cramp up. I mean, that
That
right?
never
Just so
happens, right? That's why we don't
never
have
happen.
guards there, right?
Right. And we should never take it seriously when people are doing water polo in ring buoys or doing synchronized swimming practice or doing canoe training. We should just let that go because it's a university pool and it's totally fine. And those things never happen.
Right, but I think that's not true because that's why we have job
Oh,
training.
that's right. That's right. Right. 30 seconds or less. When I first started, Bradley University, mid 90s, deep water pool, late at night, the canoe club that would canoe in the Illinois River, very brown and choppy. If you can ski in the Illinois River, you can ski anywhere. They would come and practice. Well, when they would do their canoe and their kayaks, they would stay underwater. Well, as a 17-year-old lifeguard, you know what I got used to doing? Jumping in and rescue them. But because I didn't know that they would tap the canoe if they needed help, or they had to practice rolling over. So, would you like to know how many times I interrupted people who were trying to self rescue and trying to practice? More times than not. So, I had to learn what a canoe's rescue hand signals were and what their communications were so that I would not actually jump in and try to roll them over while they were yelling at me, hitting me away with their sticks, saying, I got it. Anyway, so my point being is weird stuff happens in university pools, all different types of activities, and you always have to pay attention to it.
You do, always. And the next one is, oh, I didn't change the name, but the military base. Still says university, but we're talking about the military base. They are very similar to the universities in that way that you're going to get that unique training. And no, just because they're adults doesn't mean they can swim. Just because they're adults doesn't mean they're not going to drown. But you do get a lot of specialized training needs in these pools. But they're also open to the families like the public pools are.
Well, and I think that's a great point is without getting myself in more trouble for generalization and stereotyping, different people with different bodies are in the military. Some are very muscular, some are very strong, some have very intense training. Some want to do underwater breath holding, some want to do floating. Some maybe don't understand how their very strong muscular body sinks because they're very strong and muscular. So understanding how different bodies are used and different training techniques are used in the military areas, I think it's very important just because, like you said, of the nuances of the specialized equipment they have, the specialized body types they have, and the work they're going to be doing underwater or with the water.
Exactly. So we're going to do an overview of all of those. So the pool environments are more controlled with predictable risk, while beaches may come with dynamic conditions like those waves, those currents, those brown bottoms, stuff shifting. Our beach is known for these sandbars and they move every season.
Ooh, great point.
Mm-hmm. Our clubs, our private clubs, focus more on the customer service and exclusivity. Before we got on here, I told Wes, you can't, your boyfriend or girlfriend can't come visit you at work if you're at some of these high end clubs because they can't get in the club. You work there, but they can't. Not anybody can walk.
Literally cannot even step foot into the club. You're 100% right.
And then same with the universities. The universities are going to focus on the students that are on campus life, and you got to be on campus to work there for some of them. Kind of similar to the military facilities.
But again, to your point of overview, going back real quick, how do we get that career path? Maybe at 16 or 17, we're working at the easy first point of entry, parks and recs, indoor pool, etc. We go to college. On our resume, it says I'm a lifeguard, and I'm just a lifeguard. I've held a private club job, I've held a community job, and now I want to work in the university pool. Or same thing, you go into the military, and they say, look, you've got CPR training. Oh, you've got AED training. You've got a little bit of a leg up. So again, going back to our initial component here, these pieces can build into each other for sure.
They can. And I've had people go away to college, and every time they'll call and get a review. Did so and so lifeguard for you? I'm sure they're doing their own testing or their own training in addition to it, but they're really thorough with checking the backgrounds to see how that guard was at your facility before they let him into theirs.
Absolutely. Which leads us to this is always being prepared and the training that's going to be required. I know we won't go into it in depth, but really relevant of what you can expect. And if your team, if you're listening to this and you're not getting this training, call Nicole and I. We'll listen to you anonymously and we'll make sure that we can help you get some of this training you need because it's right here in front of you. And now that you've heard some of the different nuances of the properties and the other podcasts we've done, you kind of have a better understanding of what you should be getting for your location.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Wes. I think off air, I don't think our listeners realize how often we anonymously give information without putting our name out there or saying which right or wrong. If you guys ever have questions about your jobs or where you're working, you can call us. Wesley does consulting, and I'm just here to be friendly. But I will give any kind of feedback. I was talking to a lady this week, and Arkansas. She just had questions. And I
Yeah,
don't work with her. I had no judgment. I told her my opinions, and that's all she wanted.
that's sometimes all you need because a lot of people might not get a second opinion, no pun intended, in their first job because their boss might not know or they might not know. And that's again why we're doing this.
Right. So, if you're a lifeguard, you should be doing in-service training. That's a benchmark. I think it goes all over. It's not just YMC or it's not just Red Cross that recommends it. I think it's part of the new Model Aquatic Health Code. They recommend that training, so your facility should be offering that to you. But then, when you want to do other things like check the pool or fix the pool or teach swim lessons or teach water aerobics, some states I can just throw you in. Other states you have to have certification to do those.
And to that point is, does the organization you have and the certification you have at your organization carry to another property? That's the first question you ask. If I leave here and I quit here, or God forbid, I don't, maybe I get fired or whatever, can I take my cert and go somewhere else?
That is a very good point. I have people come to me all the time as a lifeguard and they're like, I don't have my cert. My boss has it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
cert for Red Cross, your cert is your cert. You should have it. They
Yeah.
can't keep it from you. But not true for every training and not true
Right.
for every patient. Right.
Right.
And then if you do want to move up, you don't have to do anything to be the head guard where my son works, but in other organizations or bigger organizations, there are certain degrees or trainings you can take to move up in those management roles, especially at the private clubs.
Absolutely. And again, if you want to get out of the pool and you want to do, you're a mechanical person, you're an engineer person, you like design, you're certified pool operator, like your AFO. If you like to educate and you do the swim lessons. So again, it's lifeguarding is a great entry point to anything you want, including winning prizes.
Including winning prizes. Wes, I'm going to let you tell them about the rookies and rescues. How do they get that?
Sure. Well, anybody that listens to this podcast that fills out a survey form is eligible to win the Rookies and Rescues program. What that is, it's a full power slide deck with me presenting the idea of how I get rookies and how we teach rookies and new guards to understand their environment. If you think of Notre Dame and the play like a champion and understand the mentality of sitting in a chair and holding on the bar and putting my feet on the bench and focusing on the water and clearing my head, that's what Rookies and Rescues is about. And then it talks about what Mike Tyson says. Everybody has a plan to get punched in the face. It talks about the mentality of lifeguarding, what's consistent and what's not consistent, and how to work through that first shift. And if you're a 5-year, 10-year lifeguard, this talks about how you can mentor that new guard under your wing without having to be a head guard, without having to dive deep into it.
Yeah. And so that jot form is going to be it's on Navigating Neva's website. I also am adding it to the post when I share the episode. But if you don't find it, you can always message Wes or I on Facebook or LinkedIn, and we'll gladly share it with you. The second item is a raffle. So at the end, you are going to get the chance to win our bag. And I thought I would just make this fun and show you a different item each week. So I'm going to show you what's in the bag. Aside from the bag is we have Sunbum lipstick, so your lips don't get sunburned. If you're a nude guard on the deck, you probably don't know that's going to happen. And then Sunbum baby stuff, so your nose doesn't look like the old guy in water aerobics, because that's never attractive. So
absolutely. And keep listening because we're not going to show all the items today, correct?
We're not. I'm putting these two
Right.
back in the bag. There are 3 more items to be shown. But we definitely want you guys to share our podcast and let others know that it's coming. And we still got some really good episodes coming up, not to mention our end one with the round table.
Absolutely. So we appreciate everybody listening. We hope you fill out the job forms, but also take away the information no matter where you are in aquatics so you can look at it from different perspectives from the lifeguard role.
Yep. And next week, tune back in for episode 4, Lifeguard Duties versus Lifeguard Management. And this is Nicole with Navigating Neva and our host, Wesley King. And we thank you guys for listening. Stay safe and have a safe summer. And we want 0 drownings.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.